time of the month. I do. Hello, everyone. Well, it's been a little while since we've done a beer tasting here, and, well, I've had a good vacation, Aaron's had a good vacation, and, well, I know everyone's all about the beer trip we just announced, but we are returning to our regularly scheduled programming. We are once again doing a beer tasting, and we're going to do one featuring Two Crows. Now, yes, you're saying, of course, we've done a Two Crows before. Yeah, but like 2 years ago. It's been ages since we featured Two Crows, and they just launched in with a brand new, one moment please, pre-made mix pack for the market, and I wanted to dig into exactly what they're putting in, why they're putting in there, and why I think it's really interesting, because Two Crows is coming in with some different stuff. Like, yes, they've got the Pollyanna IPA. Yes, they've got a couple of really interesting beers. So they have their Jamboree Sour, which is strawberry guava, but they've also got this Jubilee. So it's a blackberry apricot sour, but I don't find this beer all that sour. It's very juicy. It's very easy drinking. It's kind of like a sour light to me. And then this is a beer that, oh God, I wish I could sell more of it because it's so good. It tastes so well. Every time we do a tasting with it, people love it. God, I can't sell this beer, but I'm going to give it one more kick at the cat. So, all of that coming up September the 14th. You know the time, you know the place. Wednesday night, 6 o'clock. We're going to be here drinking beer and maybe talking a little bit excitedly about the upcoming beer trip on October 1st to Calgary. So, join us for that, and let's play that crow promo.
Two Crows Fishing Show featuring Roy and Donnie.
So what setup do you have on? I got a full sinking line on, type 3 full sink line. I got about 4 or 5 feet of fluorocarbon leader. And then I got a micro shot about 1.5 foot up.
Oh, just to really get it down.
To get it right down, yeah.
And I'm the same. I've got a sink tip on, and I've got on top of my sink tip, right on the end of that, I've got even a real fast sinking leader, and then a small stretch of fluorocarbon with the fly. And I think the key is to get right on the bottom with these shad.
Yep.
They sit on the bottom, you can bounce the fly across, you get a lot of hits because they take so easy. Oh, they just nibble at it.
You know what it's like? It's like when you grab your shirt and just pull your shirt a little bit. That's what the take's like. It's about that soft.
And you really have to set it right away.
So you got to be ready to pull the trigger. There. Oh.
Yeah, they're hitting it on the strip, right on the bottom.
Just as soon as you start to strip it.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday night beer tasting number 112. And here we are with Halifax's own Two Crows Brewing. Obviously, we all watched the promo together. The initial one that I did a passable at best job of. And then Aaron's incredible work with the Crow promo. Fun story, when we were initially putting this together, we'd both just gotten back from holidays. I was racing around trying to get the bus trip like launched. We had so many other things going on. And it's like, what do you want to do for a pro? I'm like, just run the Crow one from like 2 years ago. It's like, well, no, we can't do that. That's stupid. I'm like, no, just run the Crow promo again. It's my favorite promo of all time. We compromised. We did very well.
Yeah,
we found a middle ground. It was a long promo, but whatever. We'll live. We got to watch the Crows fishing again. I am satisfied with. However, this whole rest of this thing could go completely off the rails, like all the things again. I'm satisfied as long as I get to see that promo. Anyway,
over 2 years.
Was it over 2 years since? Good
It
God.
was like August 8th or something like that.
Of 2019 or 2020.
2020. Yeah.
Wow, that was a
anyway,
long time ago.
Time flies, man.
Jesus. Well, we have done a couple of these beers before. We definitely did Pollyanna. We definitely did Fantasity. And we definitely did do the, I was going to say Jubilee, but I'm wrong. The Jamboree. Yeah, it's been a little bit, but I really like this brand. I love they have a brand new, okay, Two Crows is expensive. Two Crows, for any of these 4-packs on the shelf is $20.95. But the mix pack of their beers is $18.50. Tell me how that makes sense. Because it comes in a box, which is also not expensive, but it has a cost. But yeah, Two Crows, any of them on their own, $20+. The mix pack, $18.50. And yes, I checked that price. I'm quite confident in it. That's the same markup on everything. That's just how it works out. So let's jump in. Two Crows Brewing, based in Halifax, as I said, founded in 2017. They have a real focus, at least in this market, on sours. They do a ton of really interesting seasonal sours, and they always kind of have the same basic beers in their core line, of which 3 are Jamboree, Pollyanna, and Fantasity. And then we do get some really, really cool, interesting things like a Riesling lager that was delicious, but nobody bought. And yeah, let's dive right in with the beer that Aaron and I both agree is probably the strongest beer in the lineup, but by far the weakest selling. The 2 times I've brought this in, we ended up putting most of it into the mix 4 to get rid of it. Fantasity. This is their dry hopped wheat ale that I did a dreadful job pouring. That looks like a lemon meringue pie right there. That's a solid 2 inches of foam right there. Good job, me. Well done. Everyone at home applaud this ghoulish job of pouring. I will say that there is some really nice lemon notes. In this, I get lemon drop, I get tea, I get delicate herbal notes. I do get some pretty dry hop notes. I get some spicy herby things from Noble Hops. I do get some grapefruit. Let's get a surprising amount of pepper on this. Now, does this say the hop schedule on the can? Because I don't believe it does. Water, barley, wheat, oats, hops. Yes, thank you. Very helpful, Two Crows. Really appreciate your effort. Okay, Tyler also joins me in the Bad Pour Club, so good. At least I'm not alone. Now, I will say this is made with a Belgian yeast strain, so those do tend to be a little bit foamier than the average beer. They do tend to give you a little more head. They do tend to just be... Shut up, Aaron.
Nope, all good.
Shut up, Aaron. I know what I said. Aaron is just dying off camera right now. He actually had to walk away so he didn't snort laugh on camera where you could all hear him. And yeah, I do think you're absolutely right. It's because it is a Belgian yeast. I would guess a Belgian wheat yeast because we are talking about a based wheat beer here. But I don't get yes, there's some clove to this. Yes, there's a little bit of banana if you look for it, but most of this is just spicy and bright and clean. And Aaron and I were just saying, this is probably our favorite beer in the lineup. But every time I bring this in, I can't give it away, which I think is such a shame. Now, it's funny, and it kind of brings to mind like a thing that's been occurring to me for the last little while. Wheat beers in the market. Like, I can remember when, Hefeweizen was just the thing. Like, Hoegaarden was having a real minute on tap everywhere. Hefeweizen was a big deal where every brewery had a Hefeweizen. Like, Velvet Fog by Wild Rose was either our #1 selling craft beer or #2 right behind the Wild Rose Raspberry. This is years and years ago, obviously. Wild Rose hasn't been relevant for a while. But yeah, wheat beers really had their minute in the sun, and I feel like a beer like this, again, brewery founded in 2017. This brewery didn't exist in the time period I'm talking about. I really feel like a beer like this that has those pretty spicy, bright, challenging hop notes, but at its core is a very simple, easy drinking, friendly, accessible wheat beer. I feel like this beer has a real market in terms of flavor profile. As a beer drinker, it's like, why isn't everyone buying this? And then as a person who owns like a beer store, it's like, I know exactly why no one's buying that. Nobody buys wheat beer anymore. And I think that's really sad. I love this style. I love what they're doing with it. I think it's challenging. It's interesting. I think it's refreshing. It's reasonably low in alcohol. It's something that I would always want another pint of. But I think it's an architect. I think it's an artifact of my age. I think that is. I've been drinking craft beer since the early 2000s. I'm just about to turn 40. I have certain things that I liked. I started out drinking beers very much like this. I kind of think that maybe this is a beer, as great as it is, without an audience. And I'm saying that as someone who sells this product, and it really strikes me as a beer without an audience. So Kevin, I think that I've almost literally had this in the store and you were in, and I had two fingers like this and I was jabbing them into your chest telling you to buy this beer. Because I did that with everyone and no one bought this beer. And this is the problem with beers like this. This is to a point, and I know we have the giant ESB appreciation club down here, but I think that's why we don't see more ESBs. These more subtle styles that are very good and can be very bright, they get lost in the triple New England IPA with Phantasm, Imperial Stout aged in rum and brandy barrels with special raisins and figgy pudding, with all the other crazy things that come out every other week. Cabin's new release, the 6th Rock from the Sun or whatever it is. It's like a tiki cocktail ale. I find that beers like this, beers like Appleton ESB, when I could get it, they kind of get lost in the shuffle a little bit because they're not the new trendy thing. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I mean, let's be fair. I've paid a lot of bills in this building with the new trendy thing. But I also kind of begrudge some of that with the sense that, like, still some really good core beers. I had a Snake Lake Sidewinder last night because I was not feeling like cooking, and I just stopped at OJ's West on the way home. And I had a Snake Lake Sidewinder, which is not like a super social media darling IPA, but it was great. That's a great IPA. I feel like there's beers that right now are being left not behind. I think Two Crows is doing fine financially, but they're not making styles necessarily that are right in the super popular zeitgeist. And I can guarantee if I brought in all of these beers, didn't do a tasting, didn't talk about them, just put them on the shelf, the two sours, the IPA, they would turn over at least the first flat I'd at least get out of them. Maybe one would turn into a runaway hit. Might be the Jubilee, because I really like that beer. We'll talk about that in a minute. But this, I feel, and this is going off 20 odd years of selling beer in this town, this would be left behind, which is so damn sad because I really like it. Let's just jump back here. I apparently don't entirely suck at pouring. And yeah, it's, I think Craig sums it up perfectly. This is just a delicious beer. There's nothing buzzworthy or trend-worthy or crazy about it. It's just great. And unfortunately, it seems like that's not enough. And that's really sad. But I'm still going to enjoy it. I'm still always going to pour it. And also, huge props to Two Crows for putting this into their sampler pack. Because even if you bought it because there was 2 sours in an IPA, at least you're getting a can of this. And whether you like it or not, at least you're getting it and it's getting into your head. So I think this is kind of the indoctrination beer of getting people back to wheat beers, and I'm right there for that. Craig says, I think the IPA saturation has not hit our market. No, it has. It absolutely has. I talked to breweries. Why is Cabin's new seasonal, well, right now, they do have a new IPA coming out. Can't say anything about it because I'm sworn to secrecy. Probably shouldn't even have said it was an IPA. Forget I said that. But, I mean, their Tiki Cocktail Ale is not a Tiki Cocktail Ale because, you know, they just wanted to do one. It's because everybody is seeing, like, hazy IPAs being a thing that jumped the shark. Everybody's seeing this IPA wave. That was actually the conversation I had right before this. I had, ironically, 2 Adams. Adam from Snake Lake Brewing and Adam, who is one of the food and beverage directors down at the Bayshore Inn Complex down in Waterton. And the 3 of us were actually having a conversation about, like, where the beer industry was going, where IPA was going, where, like, having an interesting beer list in a bar in Waterton was going. And we all kind of said, well, like, hazy IPA is always going to have to be there. You always have to have that tap. You have to have it. But after that, do you need 2 anymore? Do you need 3 anymore? Do you need a West Coast IPA? Like, once hazy IPA's kind of run its course, what do you do with that tap? And the thing is, the reason I'm leaving these big silences is none of us knew. Nobody knows. I've said this previously in a wine tasting before when everybody was waiting for the next shoe to drop. Sometimes in the biz, you get to this point where, like, you know, let's take wine, specifically red wine. You know, you can follow this very clear linear path of, like, you know, you started out in Californian wines and then you went to Chile because it was less expensive. But those wines all kind of tasted the same, and you went to Australia, and it stayed with Australia for a long period, and then it went to natural wine, and natural wine bled into Central Europe again. And we're just coming out of that Central Europe period, and everybody is kind of like grasping at straws, buying up things that they think is going to be the next thing. I've had people come to the store and tell me, like, absolute, like, right hand to God, Spain's going to be the very next thing. And then the next person in the door tells me that a return to Italy is the very next thing. And nobody knows. And I think that's where the beer industry's at, is we're coming out of the hazy IPA madness and nobody knows what's next. Not a soul knows what's next. I mean, Aaron's currently drinking a sour IPA, the Rearrange Us by Establishment, off camera. And it's nice. It's very nice, but does anybody here want to tell me what the difference is between sour IPA that's kind of having a minute right now and dry hopped sour that, you know, nobody seems like they can sell? It's the same stuff, it's just different names. And that's why I don't think that sour IPA is the next big thing, because dry hop sour isn't. Ooh, Chris makes an interesting point. Yeah, that wheat beer makes you think of something really rich and heavy and dense. And I love that you're reaching back for when Velvet Fog was that. If you really hate yourself, try a Velvet Fog now. I can't say that Sleeman's ruined Velvet Fog. I think that's unfair. I think there is a certain person who would say that. I think that that person is me 2 drinks from now. But no, I think that Velvet Fog was already changing by then. Velvet Fog hasn't been a particularly interesting wheat beer for some time, and part of that is because when the IPA craze, when the extreme beer craze was really going, and that's down to Rate Beer and Beer Advocate and Untapped, And that's not to assign blame to any of those websites. That's just to say that they drove people to new, extreme, broader flavors very quickly. They artificially expanded the market by pushing people to bigger flavors faster than you would usually expect. I would say that, like, during my dad's time, the shift from like old school Bordeaux, French, Rhone wines, like that style, getting them into Australian and Californian wines took a decade. With Rate Beer and Beer Advocate and Untapped and everything else, the shift in Canada, at least, from like pseudo crafts like Rickards into, you know, not talking about the change of legislation in 2016-17 here in Alberta, changing people into pursuing these extreme, giant, very flavorful styles happened artificially quickly because people always hunted down those top 50 in style or top 50 in the world, and they always tended to be these very big, very extreme examples, and they pushed people to very big flavors very quickly. I think to a point that the beer market got pushed a little too far, in the sense that beers got maybe a little too extreme, a little too wild, a little too quickly, and we're now starting to see a little bit of a snapback where we're all really liking this. But let's talk about Pollyanna on its own merits. And for any of you who missed Clock Kent, I'll point out it was 18 minutes on one beer. Thank you very much. Okay, Two Crows Pollyanna. Right down the middle, very classic New England IPA. Bright, fresh, spicy, really pretty yeast note. Really big, like, tropical fruit, melon, pineapple, grapefruit. Ooh, sorry, someone else has Pollyanna with red lettering. Oh, that's cool. I wonder if... Now, these all came on, like, the same flats, so, or the same 4 flats. So it's possible that we got different batches, because normally, like, how the beers come is we get 1 flat of each, and we, like, I repack them into 4 packs to make the mix wars. Because these came as pre-packed mix packs, there might be a flat floating out there that had red canned Pollyanna or red lettering Pollyanna. It was a little bit older or a little newer. This has a... It's very hazy here. Well, this is packaged on 04/07/2022, which is either April 7th or July 4th. So I don't know. Either way, it's reasonably fresh. Tyler, do you want to tell me your packaging date? Is it for the 3D art scheme? I don't know if their art scheme is... I mean, I know that the Two Crows part is definitely 3D oriented. Oh, wow, Tyler, this is 2021. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, that sucks. I had no idea. Okay, show of hands. Who has a Pollyanna with red writing? Because, yeah, I kind of want to refund you that can, because that's not cool. That's not cool at all. 2021 was 9 months ago. Again, that's a brewed on date, not a best before, but that's still not when you want to drink an IPA.
Oh, we didn't buy it at the store.
Oh, well then. Tyler gets what he deserves. That's so, that was so catty. That was so mean. That's not what I meant. I mean, it was what I meant, but it's not how I should have put it exactly. Fair enough, Tyler. Fair enough. Nope, that totally makes sense. I would recommend a different store in Calgary, because yeah, if you're buying that, you could be doing better. Also, this, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm talking crazy here. Shouldn't the IPA be able to follow up like a lightly hopped wheat beer more than this? Like, I love me New England IPA. I do. I know I just went on a tangent about it, but I do. This is, even fresh, this is not what I really want from an IPA. Now, I know we did this exact beer 2 years ago, and we all said, okay, well, that's a really nice New England IPA, and we brought it in for a while because it was demand. It sold quite well. How you feeling on this one, Aaron?
Yeah.
Because I can tell by the look on your face, you're feeling about how I feel about it,
chose
and that's just...
It's good enough to, but...
You know what, Tyler? I don't think this very fresh can is doing that well either. This is...
How's
Okay.
this can taste?
He said not great.
Not great.
Not great. Could be better. Hello.
Big Turk.
Big Turk? Yeah. I could actually see some, like, Turkish Delight on this, actually. There's some really pretty, like, red berry notes, which, again, assuming they're using, like, Quake yeast, could be very much a thing. Like, that's appropriate. Yeah. Maybe it's just his, like, fantasity so much. I'm unconvinced. I don't dig it. Not into it. It's okay. It smells all right. No, that was okay. I wouldn't go any further than okay for me. All right, 2 sours side by each. The ironically named Jubilee, because, you know, when we recorded the promo, the Queen was still alive.
Right.
So here we are. And with no further ado, the Jubilee. Now, this is a style I very much like. Sour with blackberry and apricot. This, to me, comes off kind of like, when I was doing the promo, I said this was like a sour light. There is a new style that Annex has done one, a couple other breweries have done one. They're kind of like lemonade sours. They're not as sour as like an intense kettle sour. They're not as sour as a lambic. They're kind of lightly sour. Like, not a real homemade lemonade per se, but like a lemonade from a can sort of sourness. And this reminds me very much of that. This is not a desperately sour, but it has a nice lemony freshness. There's a very refreshing character to it. The alcohol is reasonably low. I did check this before we started, 4.8. It's just a nice, everyday, soft, easy drink without needing like a lot of sour, without needing a lot of acid, without needing a lot of alcohol. It's just easy, and I really appreciate that. Now, that's not to say I'm going to stand here like hate on Establishment's In the Sky with Diamonds, which is, I believe, 7.7% and like big and hoppy and over the top and huge. No, I loved Pump Up the Jam by Establishment. I thought it was a great Imperial Sour. Imperial Sours have their place, but I like this. I like how soft this is. This is the same reason I like Infinite Mirror from Annex. It really reminds me of like an alcohol-free tart lemonade from the farmer's market in the best possible way. I'm loving the aging comments on their IPA from a year ago. Yes, well, it could be going better for you. I imagine that is certainly true. It could be better. This, however, is lovely. I'm actually getting weird bits of watermelon or cantaloupe on this that I wasn't expecting. There's a real melon note to this out of nowhere to me. But it's very there and very bright. Yeah, Craig, I'm right there. Tropical fruit. This is one of those out of place things where if anyone else goes to those Reuben's Veggies, like garden sheds that are like the cute little vegetable stands, highly recommend them. The cucumbers, the baby cukes from there right now, or at least the last one was there last week, they taste markedly of watermelon. Like when I buy the little baby cukes from Reuben's, and I cut them open. I just put them on a plate, a little bit of like Thousand Island dressing for like dipping, because I'm an awful person. They taste like watermelon, like without anything on them. You smell them; they smell like very gentle watermelon. You bite into them, and there's just that nice little bit of sweetness. That's kind of how I feel about this. Is there's that very delicate, haunting melon character throughout. That this isn't a beer that advertises having melon in it or having melon as a primary flavor, but it's there. It's there right through, and I like that. Dragon fruit's an interesting call. I haven't had a dragon fruit in a very long time, so I can't comment.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's how I mild and a lot of seeds, right? Yeah. Mealy, yeah.
Maybe our dragon fruits just suck.
I mean, there is some of that. Like, it's got to come all the way over from wherever dragon fruits are grown. I genuinely couldn't tell you where they are grown. Ooh. Chris with a very specific flavor memory, and I love specific flavor memories, as you know. Watermelon Jugendfrühs like they used to have that had the really subtle melon, which is great for two reasons. One, it's hyper specific, and two, it sounds like they don't make that type of Jugendfrühs anymore, so he could never be proven wrong. Which is my favorite type of flavor memory. It tastes like this, as you stroke your beard and say, oh, but that thing doesn't exist anymore, so you'll never know what I'm talking about. Now, I'm not saying that Chris did that deliberately. I'm giving him a little bit of the gears here. But I find in wine and beer tasting and spirits tasting that there's very much this temptation to talk about, you know, the Tim Hortons that used to be on 3rd and Stafford Drive that got shut down for posting all that racist shit. You all know what I'm talking about. Because you know where it was, and you know it's a dentist's office now. The entire wine and spirits industry is very much the thing that used to be a different thing, and we all kind of know what we're talking about. This is one of those things with beer, is like we all want to reference things nobody else has had before, only people in our in-group have had before. And I like that kind of Chris gave me an into that side of it, because whenever I go to a big tasting and people are like, oh, this is like the 82 Haut-Brion, it's like, you don't know what that was like. Nobody remembers that specifically what something was like. I mean, the whole idea of Robert Parker as this like wine tasting guru was that he was supposed to be able to remember how everything tasted, and then, you know, it turned out he was selling advertising space for millions of dollars and just lying. There's none of that. Nobody has that descriptive of a flavor memory. I think that this idea of like, this is how this other thing used to taste, I like that. But it also ties to a romanticism about the industry that I don't think is true, because you're always tempted to say, well, things were better 10 years ago. No, things were worse 10 years ago. Things were much worse 10 years ago. Anyway, I've gotten off track.
That's pretty good.
This is very good.
Definitely get the stone fruit in it. It's got that tartness of like, you know, the meat that's like stuck to the bone of an apricot or something like that.
It's that inner flesh, isn't it?
Totally. The blackberry is there, absolutely.
Blackberries there, lemons there, apricots there.
Yeah.
There's also something else like honeydew melon, cantaloupe that's there, but it's just in a fleshy liquid part.
Yeah. Subtle melon. That's %.
So let us talk about what we have coming up next week. Now, next week we have Twa Dogs. Now, this is Graham McAloney of McAloney Caledonian, the single malt but not Scotch distiller off Vancouver Island. They also have a brewery. Now, they do make a really cool IPA, they make like an ESB, they make a Pilsner, they make lots of perfectly normal, sensible, delicious beers. But I said, nah, none of that. We're going to do the weird stuff. So, we've got the raspberry creme brulee ale. Is this sour? Is it an imperial ale? Is it a barley wine? Is it a stout? Is it a raspberry creme brulee IPA? We don't know. Well, I know I looked at the back of the can, but it's not on the front, so I'm not going to talk about it. Then we got a blackberry blonde. That's pretty self-explanatory. Salish Cyclone calls itself a tropical ale or tropical explosion ale. Sorry, tropical fruit explosion. It was dumber than I built it as. But yeah, tropical fruit explosion. And then a lavender saison. This is going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. It's going to be different. And it's so separate in terms of like mindset from how traditional and old-fashioned, and it's just like Scotland. The Macaloni's Caledonian series like bills itself as is, we're so serious, we're just doing what Scotland does. Take us just as seriously as Scotland or Japan or Taiwan. We are doing the same thing. But also we have this raspberry creme brulee at 8.2% that we don't say what style it is. So maybe takes a little of the seriousness away from that. So that is next week. And I also wanted to mention, for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, we got our beer trip together.
Yay!
It's happening. It's
Hooray.
going. We have.
Clap, Ryan. We need your clap there.
Thank you, Ryan.
There we go. Thanks, Ryan.
Okay, so it is happening. We are going to 4 breweries, at least. We are definitely going to Cabin, Establishment, 88, and Annex. Not in that order, but every single place we stop. So you will come to the store at 9:30 in the morning. We'll get on a bus together. We will drive to Calgary. We'll go to 4 breweries. You will get a sampler tray of varying descriptions at each one. I want to say that like Annex is doing 4 beers at 3 ounces each, and Cabin is doing 3 beers at 5 ounces each. They're all going to be different. They're all going to be unique sampler trays. And when you're done your sampler tray, you still have time. You can hang out. You can get yourself a pint. You can get yourself something to eat. You can just mill around. Maybe when we're at Cabin, we'll walk across the street to Bourne Brewing, since it's famously 87 steps away. We could go do that. But the whole trip, what comes in your ticket price? It's $120. That's a lot of money, yes, but it's going to cover getting to the store, getting on a bus, driven to Calgary, go to 4 different breweries, get a sampler tray at 4 different breweries, and be driven back. Folks, that's just the cost of gas. It's not even the cost of like going to the brewery on a VIP tour, getting like the brewers to hang out with you and pour you a sampler tray and hang out and answer all your questions and give you a bit of a tour and just chill and have fun. This is everything that I've built this whole tasting series towards. This is it. This is the trip. And it's happening Saturday, October 1st. Aaron and I are both coming, so if you've really enjoyed Aaron's production quality but never met Aaron, you can come, hang out with Aaron and I.
Pretty fun.
You can enjoy his mustache, and it'll be great. Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're all going to Calgary. We're hanging out. That's coming up. That is in a little over 2 weeks from today. So we have 2 more beer tastings before the event. I am expecting it to sell out very quickly. We're just a little under half sold out already. And this is not the official announcement, but the first time we've talked about it on the beer tasting. So that is coming up. Do bring your vaccine passports. It's important because we have built this as a pandemic alternative the last 2.5 years, and I don't want to turn it into a super spreader event after everything we've all done hanging out online. We're not turning into a super spreader at the very tail end. We're not falling on the last hurdle. Okay, moving right along. Let's jump into Jamboree. Now this is a beer. Oh, this is a beer. Every time I think this beer is ready to pop off, every time this beer is like ready to be our next giant sales success, they release a version of this beer that tastes like pencil erasers, and I'm not kidding. This beer, I think the example in my glass is lovely and tropical and bright and everything I want from a sour. It reminds me a lot of like Phillips Dino Sour, but a little more serious, a little more fun. So often I get a can of this and it's just tastes like charcoal briquettes and sadness. There's nothing to like here. I wonder if it's an expiration date thing or a brewing quality thing, or just they use really crazy types of fruit and you need, the freshest examples of that fruit to pull this beer off. I don't know. This beer eludes me. Because when it's really on, I don't know if there's a better sour in the market. But sometimes you open a can of this and it's just... You can tell it's either been around for a while or kept a little warm or something. This beer just doesn't come off right. But the one I have in my glass right now,
Which side of the coin are we on today?
this shows just fine.
Okay. Jesus. Let's wait.
Well, you shouldn't have to wait. This doesn't smell like struck match. It doesn't smell like vinegar. It doesn't smell like a mess. This is pretty.
It's good.
Oh, no, I did not watch, Chris. I have not yet seen Sour Grapes on Netflix, although I really need to. And I love the idea of trying to mix wines together to create the magic potion of an expensive wine. Chemically, there's no real reason why that wouldn't work. Like if you wanted to add extra tannin and you added like a wine from Mataran, and you wanted extra alcohol and you blended an Australian Shiraz, you wanted extra sugar and you, I don't know, put in Apothic Red because you wanted to ruin everything. There's ways you could create your ideal wine in terms of like chemistry, in terms of grams of sugar per liter, grams of alcohol per liter, grams of tannin per liter, just every component of the wine in terms of like grams or milligrams per liter. You could create that. And the magic of winemaking is you can Frankenstein almost anything together. And as long as you age it together for a couple or 3 months in a bourbon barrel or any type of oak barrel, really, you can come up with something. I'd be curious to see what like Frankensteining a wine out of different components that way of the cynical side of blending resulted in. Oh, I need to see this documentary because there's so many things I'd like to learn. Justin, Craig, you guys just jerks. We put all this time into this. I'm not actually upset. It's going to sell out anyway, but
It would just be nice to have.
it would be nice. It would be nice to have you there because it'd be nice to spend time all together.
These are our OG beer tasting.
Exactly. You're the core audience. You're the people we want there. You're the reason we're doing it. But if you want to break your mother's heart, I guess skip Thanksgiving. It's fine.
Go ahead.
Go spend that time away.
That's good.
No, that is good. But for me, it's going to be Fantasity 1 by a mile. The unfortunately named Jubilee 2. This 3. That kind of doesn't rank for me. Didn't like it. Didn't do a thing for me. I think that's where we end it. Aaron, any closing comments?
1. What did you say?
1,
Yeah.
2,
Yeah.
3,
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
Hey, we're
Yeah.
of the same mind.
We're the same. I'm sure there's.
Doesn't happen real often.
I'm sure there's a few of those in there. We'll have to do this again. Oh,
Yes.
The
Well,
trip.
says the guy who's skipping it.
He's got his things.
I know he's his things. I'm just giving you a shitty time. All right. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
we will
everybody.
talk to you in a week. Till then,
Oh, frick. Yeah.
enjoy the rest of your night. Good
Bye.
night.